Hello and welcome to Coursera and ETHR World Thought Leadership Series on Workplace Learning. The topic for discussion is the future of learning, creating more equal opportunity in a more digital world. And we are joined by a leader from the public sector, Vandana Chaturvedi, Head of HR at NTPC. And making this conversation more riveting, we have Dulles Krishnan, MD, Coursera Enterprise India and ANZ. Thank you for joining us today. Vandana, I'd like to ask you that the public sector has always been at the forefront of a people before profit philosophy, and the social issues remain at the center of policy making. As the learning landscape evolves due to digitalization, how can we reduce potential disparities in access to digital learning and ensure that all employees have equal access to skill development and career advancement?
Thank you, Pooja, for having me here. And I really, I'm delighted with this opportunity. So, Pooja, in my current role as a learning and growth officer, I believe that everyone should have that equal access to quality training, learning, and growth opportunities. So, inclusivity in quality training is a fundamental challenge that we need to address. So I see it as three ways, like infrastructure, knowledge, and skill. So if we talk about infrastructure, not all companies can afford an elaborate training infrastructure like classroom trainings, virtual reality, augmented reality. To tackle this, we need to leverage the tools that are already existing and is commonly available to the workforce. And thankfully, in India, initiatives like Digital India have significantly improved the access to digital devices and particularly smartphones. So this provides us with a very valuable opportunity to broaden the reach of our L&D. And I may add the challenge of a remote location like Farakka, from where I am joining. So how do we leverage these kind of digital initiatives? So we promise, of course, our employees world-class infrastructure wherever we are, 89 locations, and we strongly believe in learning, for that is our value. But in a location which is 300 kilometers from a nearest airport, it's a challenge how you connect with the best of faculties. So definitely going digital is the answer, and this is how we do it. And of course, when we come to knowledge, or should I say that the question is going fully digital, whether that is advisable, but I would say that it has its own disadvantages because employees have too many choices in that case. So if I say I am enrolled into say a more than 100 MOCs myself, and whether I complete even 10 of them, so that would be a question I need to answer my own self. So I may want to learn Chinese, but do I have the time and effort that is required to learn Chinese? So in the end, it is about creating the intrinsic value that the employees want, and what is it that the business wants and needs. So connecting those dots as a learning officer, it's very important. So I basically believe that while we are skilling, we need to look at the different level of skills that are there. And these days, companies, progressive companies like mine, we are even, skilling our contract workforce and also associates and vendors, and that is very huge because it involves a lot of resources. But that is how we try to bring everyone on the same platform so that everybody understands what is the business requirement. So I particularly believe in the pull factor of the training. So you give training which the employees want, and if I compare it to a large pizza, I would say then everybody loves pizza, right? But they want different toppings. Somebody may want a cheese or a double cheese or a veggie or chicken, whatever Italian fried oven stove pizza. But at the end of the day, I would say L&D professionals we need to come up with creative, toppings so that the employees and the workforce keep on wanting more and more. And every time we end up satisfying the taste bud, and of course the company is also satisfied. So in nutshell, I would say focusing on all those things. Thank you, Pooja.
Yeah, Vandana, you got me feeling very hungry talking about pizza. But Dulles, I really agree with Vandana that the power of digital is phenomenal. If
True.
I want to learn Chinese, I can learn. Previously it was not possible. So you are from Coursera. You are the best person to tell us what are the trends in access to digital learning.
Sure. So I think maybe let me start at a macro level, which Vandana ma'am also spoke about. And this is the context of Digital India and how it is impacting various roles across industries, right? And I guess there was an EY report that I read recently which said what 20%, 22% of India's economy is actually digitally touched today. So you can imagine the prevalence of that. And as a result, what you can think about is so many job roles across industries are actually are starting to build new digital skills, because they are, those are new skills that are enabling those functions, right? With digital transformation as being at the core of those many changes that are happening. So there is a huge trend around building digital skills, right? So that's one big ticket item that we can see across organizations, across industries, across levels of people, right from a CEO, board, somebody sitting in the board, all the way down to someone who's at the entry level of a job, right? People are starting to use digital skills, and that's become very important. Now, the second part to it is the human part, where we say that because digital skills by nature tend to have a shorter currency, you need to constantly keep upgrading yourself. So there is a speed at which that you need to constantly train. But you can only do that if you actually have strong human skills underneath it, right? So your ability to adapt, your problem solving skills, your critical thinking skills. So we are starting to see this combination of digital skills and human skills coming together as a core, a skill persona that most people need to have, right? So there, Vandana ma'am spoke about, there is the knowledge element, there's the skill element, of course, and there is a big element on access. A platform like us, I think we try to solve all of that, but trying to bring high quality learning and then provide that access. And then we are using a lot of technology interventions and trying to bring that experiences for a learner, wherein a learner, what he would get in a classroom, how can I replicate that in a scenario where the people can have the similar experiences in a digital environment, and yet you can scale it and make it accessible to a large number of people, right? So that's the context of, I would say, what we are today seeing in terms of digital skills and human skills in the Indian market.
Picking up from here, Dulles, I'd like to ask Vandana that given the multi-generational workforce that we have in organization today, everybody's digital literacy, and now we talk about AI literacy, is not the same. So how are you bridging the gap amongst the employees to become more digitally savvy towards digital learning?
Yeah, Pooja, so let me talk about the past first, the digital literacy. Like we all got into the bandwagon of being digital. So when we implemented this SAP in 1990s, we conducted an elaborate digital skill assessment to identify the digital literacy level of the employees. And we provided differentiated learnings based on the skill assessment and the results. And not only this, we used different learning formats, whether it was the workshop on the job, or we even conducted trainings for the spouses and children, so as to bridge that psychological gap. And we provided opportunity for peer mentoring, where the peers taught their own colleagues. And we provided all the employees with the necessary infrastructure. We even provided them, came up with schemes where we provided them with computers, now laptops, smartphones, and everything. So now, so much so that we are a 100% digital company, where we have declared our offices as paperless, and we have even stopped purchasing papers and the printers. So now coming to this wave of AI, yeah, I would say we are already digital, so that really helps us. We are sitting on a huge mountain of data, which is generated each day, every moment. So, but I would say that it's a tough road ahead. It's a common myth that AI is new, but it started somewhere in 1950s when Alan Turing and John McCarthy said that AI can indeed come up and basically simulate human intelligence. And I believe the leaders like Sundar Pichai, when they say that it is going to impact every company, every job, every service, and every product. So I would say it's not an exaggeration. That is definitely going to be there. And the new, generative AI like Chat GPT, Bard, DALI, these have definitely created a huge buzz. So coming to the AI literacy level, I would say the genie is out of the bottle. It's going to be very difficult to control. It is up to us. How do we use this Aladdin ka charag? Whether it helps us or it destroys us. So, being from a power utility company, I would say that the possibilities are immense. As I said, we are a digital company. It's going to be immense in making positive changes, improving productivity, improving efficiencies, cutting down on the transaction time. I have a genie which helps me with my daily tasks of, MS Word, MS Excel, PowerPoint. I don't really waste time on that. So my time is freed for strategic activities, and I can use it as a co-pilot for my own genie. But then I would here, proceed with caution because there is a real threat of data privacy. There's a real threat of cybersecurity. So what we are currently doing are we are making our employees aware about all these threats first, because we are a very responsible company for we power the nation. I mean, we can't afford to take that kind of risk which exposing these kind of data and risk are involved. So this is our job. We as leadership would like to proceed on this front very quickly because I should say the positives are huge, and but proceed with caution because there's a lot of issues which are at stake for the country. So I would say it definitely will create a equitable environment for learning. I will not hazard a guess how equitable. I would say that it would be different levels. As I said, it happened with digital. Some people would be only using AI as an assistant. Some would be, be more proficient about it. They'll be interested in developing deeper AI skills, whether it is NLP, deep learning, or programming like R and whatever. So I would say definitely the human capital that will embrace generative AI are better placed to adapt to the newer environment. And I understand there are so many external vendors who are experimenting with AI-based, I would say, learning solutions. And if I believe only in Asia, there are more than 2,500 tech vendors who are there. So the landscape is huge. But yes, since companies like ours are already quite digital, we have a workforce which is hugely technical in nature, many engineers. So equipping them with deep AI knowledge is going to be, I think, the cornerstone of adapting these kind of technologies. So definitely leadership would be thinking about this, but with a caution, as I said. Thank you.
Yeah, the word is caution. Vandana, but really congratulations when you say that NTPC is a fully digital organization, because rarely I hear that from any leaders, and that you're not using paper and you're printer less. It's a great feat. Dulles, I'd like to ask you that, how cutting edge technology, especially generative AI, is changing the learning landscape in the world.
Yeah, first and foremost, I just want to compliment Vandana on the wonderful examples that she's quoted. And I recently watched The Imitation Game, the Alan Turing movie. This is based on his biography. And then there where he talks about, the difference, before I get into the Gen AI question, right? So the context that can a computer be human and can it think? And hence, if a person thinks, can it become like a human, right? So there was this wonderful dialogue that he had responded to in that movie. So it's a wonderful watch. If you haven't watched, you should take a look at that one. It gives you the history. Of course, there is a personal biography, but there is also the history of breaking Enigma, the crypto that was used, and how machines were made to think in that context, right? The paradigm had to change at that time. So coming fast forward to here, right, in the context of the computer is now thinking, right, and that's where the power of Gen AI kind of reimagined, I would say, the impact of AI. Right? AI existed, as Vandana said, 1950s onwards. But December of last year, when ChatGPT became kind of caught the imagination of people in the context of how simply you and me could use AI, almost like using electricity, right? So electricity is, if you think about it in that context, there was a quote from Andrew Ng, who's our founder and the Stanford professor. He says, AI is the new electricity. And the point is, the point that he was trying to make was electricity when it came in, people probably didn't realize that how pervasive it would become. Right? But today, if you think about it, it's so pervasive, we are impervious to the fact that there is electricity present all around us. Right? It just exists, right? And none of us know what really happens behind to produce it. Right? Similarly, AI, and especially in the context of Gen AI, it will exist in all around us because it will be in our human interactions. It's what we do on a day-to-day basis, and it will augment and strategically enhance our abilities in a way that we probably won't even realize that there is an AI underneath it, right? So that's probably where the world of AI is getting into. Now, bringing that context back into learning, we see this, the power of AI in learning is probably the most powerful one in the context of changing experiences, right? One is, of course, access. In general, technology has the ability to improve access. Technology has the ability to improve quality. So those are a few things that technology brings by nature. But what Gen AI is doing is it has the ability to synthesize knowledge and make it personalized to me in the way I want to consume, right? For example, a simple thing like we have this concept of skills-first learning. So the ability for us to define what job role, and in that job role, what are the skills that are important or what I should learn, could be done by synthesizing a lot of data in terms of, I could take an assessment. I know where I stand as, the same person. Let's say Vandana and Pooja, both of your CHROs, at your strategic level, you may have six important skills that are important to your success as a role. Strategic thinking could be Vandana's, strength area, and your area, Pooja, could be HR operations. And maybe in Vandana's area, maybe HR operations is the area where she probably needs to pick up additional skill. So even though it's the same role, you may have different levels of skills that needs to be done. So that is an area where we realize that how can we bring the power of AI in understanding who you are, where you stand against a role, and how can that learning be curated in a very personalized way. So that's one, in a very simple terms, trying to tell you what you should learn. Second is the learning experience itself, right? When we learn, think of it, the biggest challenge that we always talk about is that how can I bring the concept of an expert tutor, which is the classroom-led learning, with an expert tutor where if you had an opportunity for one-on-one expert tutoring, we always say that has the highest impact on outcomes. Now, you can't do that in a physical environment where an expert tutor is available to every individual learner. So we always go to the next best thing, which is classroom, right? But Gen AI kind of brings that ability to create an expert tutor made available to me and to teach me, right? So, for example, on the Coursera platform, we recently announced a feature called the Coursera Coach, which essentially embodies the entire knowledge of what Coursera has with its 10,000 plus courses. So it learns, the Coursera Coach fundamentally learns and becomes an expert in so many subjects and courses that it exists. So when I learn, I can actually ask questions which come from my area of need to ask a clarification, bring an additional context. You know what, I didn't understand this, or I don't understand this term. I find these two confusing. Can you explain, right? So Coursera Coach gives me an answer. I can bring my role into the context. I'm a plant manager. Why the hell am I learning problem solving? Right? Mine is a very monotonous job. So it can tell you, okay, here is where the situations where this can come into play. So that personalizing of learning, the expert tutor is probably the second area where we see Gen AI as having a big role to play and extremely high impact. We see that in corporate learners. We even see that in student learners, right? So that's the way that we that probably, and we'll see this trend across technology platforms in education. Khan Academy has a tutor called Khanmigo, right? And which essentially does this to a one-on-one individual student who's trying to learn in Africa, right? The third is the context of L&D professionals, right? If you think of L&D as a function, one of the core challenges is always to look at where can I get the right content? Where can I contextualize the content to what I am trying to achieve for my team or for a particular program? And how do I curate and make something which is very specific, right? And that takes time, right? So we built this, a feature called AI-powered authoring. It's called Coursera Course Builder, which fundamentally has this ability to bring in your knowledge, which is you may have your recordings, you may have your reading material, you may have your company context, upload that, give the AI tool, the course builder, the learning objectives and the outcomes that you want. You can what format you want it to be. You can tell what duration it want it to be. It will generate an entire course structure that an L&D professional can go through and then create a course probably in about maybe a week to 10 days time, right? And this, when I say 10 days, it's only in the context of testing and others. The creation itself is probably a couple of hours job, right? So that's the power that we see. There are more use cases that we are starting to see emerge, with AR, VR coming in. How do I bring experiential learning into areas that, in a human communication, right? It's very difficult to do it in a non-experiential way, right? You can't read and become better at communication. You need to do to become better at communication. So how do you bring AR, VR concepts into that? So there is a lot of power that I feel technology in that sense is coming into the learning process, learning platforms, learning technologies, and then that combines with traditional concepts of how to make it more effective so that the outcomes are more impactful. So we see that trend continuing, and that's an area we keep innovating on.
So talking about outcomes, Vandana, I'd like to ask you, this is a clear fact that today every organization needs to be a learning organization. But as a policymaker, as a strategist, what kind of learning outcomes and business outcomes do you plan for when you roll out the learning strategies?
Yeah, Pooja. So first of all, I would say what Dulles mentioned, artificial intelligence is the new electricity, and I'm very happy with that statement because being from the power utility, I totally understand this. So Pooja, as far as the business outcomes are concerned, we are very clear that all the skilling initiatives, the L&D initiatives that we take should have a definitive business outcome and should be related to the business objectives. And we do have very close metrics that we follow. As far as the power utilities are concerned, we have a huge focus on the cost because we are a cost plus company. So anything which adds to the productivity of the employee, anything which improves the efficiencies of the systems. So I need to have a focused training on where the employees should learn their metrics of their own job, of their own roles, of their own technical performances, so the human errors are reduced. Because in the context of huge, I should say, intensive industries where a lot of investments are made, the cost, any error, human error can be very costly. So when employees are being trained on new technologies, say we take in a new batch of trainees, and we need to handle them and give them a simulated environment. In fact, it's not very new. We have been doing these kind of simulation trainings since first, I suppose, 1990s, where we put all our engineers on the simulation trainings where they look at the various parameters on how to operate a power plant. And after looking at these various parameters, we analyze are they really close to becoming a successful operation engineer, power plant engineer. And then, of course, they're allowed to make a mistake on the simulation environment. They can make any number of mistakes they want and learn from their own, those kind of problem solving challenges. So definitely such kind of digital environments have been there in progressive industries like us, even manufacturing industries. But the AI is going to help in coming future, like Dallas mentioned, that the course building has become very, the time it takes has become very short, and you just upload whatever documentation is available to you, and with the help of AI, you can create a meaningful course out of it. In fact, this is one very wonderful power of generative AI that I suppose is going to be a revolution in L&D. It's already started happening, and digital companies like us are sitting on a data mine, and these data mines can create very impactful courses. So it's, yes, as I said, how do you use the power of Genie? So definitely L&D is one area where we can use this power of Genie, and there are a lot of, I should say, if I take example of safety, say, so safety first, we say safety first, whenever we are doing in operations any particular maintenance activity, or even for day-to-day operation activities, we say safety first. So we train everyone included in that should go up, safety training on how to handle tools and tackles, equipments, and the processes, what kind of problems may come out of it. So there should be plan ahead for any challenge that comes. So, but errors happen, right? Because it's human beings are also involved in such kind of jobs. So there are certain past data which, if you analyze, is available for industry, where a particular, say, a job, if it is being done, then what were the human errors, what happened, what were the incidents that were reported. So out of this, probably I can create a course which says, okay, these are the errors which happened in the past. Just be aware that it doesn't happen to you. And with AI, it's can be done in real time. As the person is doing their job, though maybe a co-pilot, as I was saying, a genie which is helping me, can say, okay, sure, you did this, but why don't you do it like this, so that you don't end up doing that kind of an error. So this is going to be a huge game changer for the industry, especially for industries which are hugely investment intensive, and where the human errors are proved to be very costly. And then I say that, of course, the business outcomes, as far as the new businesses are concerned, the new technologies are concerned. So it's the era of energy transition, right? So we are transitioning from the thermal, the country is transitioning from thermal to renewables. There are new businesses which are emerging, whether in renewables, green hydrogen, storage, carbon capture, nuclear, green chemicals, you name it, mobility, EV, and it's very critical for L&D professionals to know, keep on updating the workforce, especially the leaders, on how these changing environments, so that they are able to adapt. And it's not just about the new technology. Of course, you can get the best of minds, the best of faculties from the world to, give webinars, or, in discussions with your leaders. But then creating the right mindset, that is very important. The right mindset where the employees, the leadership, adapt, have an agile mindset, have an adaptive mindset, so that and then we give our leadership, and also the in workforce, these data-based problem solving skills, so that we have, I should say, better operational experience. Risk taking is reduced, and then, yes, the best outcome, I would say, would be a very strong employer brand also, because in the end of the day, L&D helps a lot in creating a wonderful employer brand. And let me just say that we at NTPC are known to be a best employer for past more than a decade now. And we recently won 2 Brandon Hall Group Excellence Award, which is huge in L&D, and also ATD Best Award for 2023. So this is, I would say that the business outcome and of course learning outcomes are whatever skilling that we do for our employees. So their skill enhancement levels, their problem solving skills. So they are able to do data, use the analytics. As I said, huge data is already generated due to it being digital, and communication skills. So the list is huge. And I should say that leadership is one area where adaptive and changing mindset is very important, and so that they are able to not just adapt a new business model but be prepared for the digital landscape also. So in the end, I should say that we create a sustainable organization, okay, which keeps on being from NTPC. We power the nation, and in that fulfill our vision to be the world's leading power company, energizing India's growth. So I would end at that. Thank you.
No, you've spoken in such little time, you've covered so much. You've spoken about all the critical skills and how that's leading to, sustainability, and NTPC is doing such good job in becoming carbon free, net zero. And plus, when you talk about agile and adaptability and problem solving skills, all those lead to a business outcome. So really fabulous, Vandana. Dulles, I'd like to ask you now that what do you see the vision in Coursera to connect the dots between skilling and business outcome?
Yeah, this is actually, there are so many points of view here. And in my position, I'm able to engage with so many CHROs and leaders here. There are companies and institutions that they say that I don't need an ROI for learning. Learning is something that is integral to what we do every day. So it has to be there. So we don't measure it in terms of pure ROI. And of course, impact. Almost everybody, there's one thing common. Everybody said we do want to see impact. But on the other extreme were people who were very number focused, and they said, you know what, I need to finally translate what we do, what we spend into some form of a metric that requires to be done. Now, so we do see this, what should I say, the wide variety of this. A few things that what I feel is more appropriate today, and is in the way the learning has moved from being very catalog driven, activity driven, which means there were metrics which were saying, okay, how many hours of learning you did, right? Those were simpler metrics, classical metrics, I call them. So those exist. But what people are today more going to and saying that, okay, what are the critical skills that are important to my company, given where the strategic direction of this is? And where is my skill inventory or my skill proficiency, right? Both of which. You need an inventory of skills, and you also need the right proficiency of skills in my organization. So that's probably the places where the more mature conversations are happening in the context of, in the course of learning, can I get to building a skill inventory? In the course of learning, can I measure the skill proficiency of my organization? Can I see the tracking of, am I moving from a conversant to a more advanced level of learning? So that's one type of, I would say, a common theme that we see across the board. On the other side, we also see a set of customers measuring impact in very simple things like employee engagement. In a professional services organization where it is very people driven, we find a direct correlation between access to high quality learning to linked directly to career development and linked directly to higher employee engagement, right? Which finally translates to better customer experiences and better outcomes for those companies. So that's something that we have seen in many companies. PwC is one of our examples where we have seen this really, really effectively. They also, with PwC, there was another example that I thought was very, very interesting, was they started measuring the impact of learning in creation of assets, right? I know Vandana and I spoke about the fact that, NTPC is a digital first organization today. But but in order to amplify the impact of digital, you always keep creating new digital assets, right? And I know there is data privacy that you spoke about as critical, cybersecurity that I spoke of critical. But with a lot of learning that people are doing, are they creating assets that can be reused in creating additional impact and additional protection on data, right? Or is there a better way to secure your transmission networks from a hack, right? So are there assets being created from these learnings? So PwC went to the extent of saying, okay, if you're learning and if you've got a certain level of mastery, why don't you create an asset? And those assets were then deployed in customer environments that led to lower costs or better customer experience and hence better delight and additional revenue. So there were some measures that they did on that. So yeah, so we do see this context of this. The other one that we have seen recently with some of our customers is, am I sourcing more people from within for critical job roles that are emerging in areas of skills that we are today in shortage? Can I buy my way out through a skill shortage, or do I build my way through a skill shortage? If I'm able to do a lot more build versus buy, that's a big area of impact that we see in the context of learning outcomes. Right? So I'm sure this is a debate that we can have for an entire 2-hour session, but
yeah,
I thought I'll leave them with some thought for you.
Yes, and actually the time is up, and it's also, we got to wrap this session. So thank you for joining us and leaving behind nuggets of learning from the industries that you belong to. We believe in the spirit of conversation on critical topics and endeavor to ignite positive change in the work world. Thank you so much, Vandana and Dulles.
Thank you, Pooja. As always, wonderful to have you as our host. I love the way you come across with your insightful questions. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you, Pooja. It was wonderful being here. I've personally learned so much from this conversation. Thank you. Thank you, Dulles.